Let's bring in David Dunn now. He joins me from the UK. He's a professor of international politics at the University of Birmingham. Pleasure to have you on, David. So when we're talking about the G7 meeting that's upcoming, kicks off today, they'll obviously start. One of the biggest conversations will be based on the current conflict, Iran and Israel. And from what I've read, it seems as though most of the members will be in agreement, apart from Japan. So will it be most of the members saying, we're all right with this, we don't want Iran getting nuclear weapons, and then Japan will just be sort of grumbling in the corner? How does this work?
Yes, what's interesting is that normally the G7 works towards a consensus, and there is a communique that is agreed by all the parties. Because of Donald Trump, this time they have actually said in advance that there will be no communique, there will be no agreed consensus statement, and that way it makes this easier. So in a sense, actually, the rogue in the room in the terms of Trump makes it easy to actually avoid the need to actually appear divided over the issue of Israel and Iran. But I think all parties are agreed on two things: that they don't want the war to expand if it possibly can be avoided, and therefore to try and prevent Iran from attacking international shipping, and they don't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. Iran is seen by everyone here as a rogue and revolutionary actor in the region, supporting Russia with its drones and missiles, trying to undermine the security of the region more broadly, arming and activating proxies in Lebanon, in Yemen and elsewhere. And therefore, Iran has no friends here. The concern really is more about whether this thing actually blows out of control and interrupts international shipping and therefore the world economy. So I think, even though there are mild disagreements on how level of support, and everyone's calling there for it to be de-escalation, there was also, I think, an underlying sense that actually that there is an opportunity here of actually having the parts move in a different direction and result in Iran, one way or another, having this nuclear program halted. Because crucially, Iran was using the fact that it was engaged in diplomacy with the United States to increase its capacity to actually move towards a breakout and having a capacity to build nuclear weapons, and no one wants that.
When they get around to talking about the war in Ukraine, I mean, it seems pretty clear that you're going to have the US on one side, and it's certainly not been supportive of Ukraine as of late. But you've got UK, Germany, France, who've been extremely supportive. So when you have this disparity in the direction they want to go in, what happens there? Do they genuinely sit down and say, well, how can we find a route of compromise, or do they just ignore each other?
So no, I mean, what this is an opportunity, a multi-day opportunity to try and press the case. Trump is famously renowned for his vacillation on the issue. He tends to actually listen to the last person who has talked to him or what he's last watched on TV. So here's an opportunity to try and get him to actually come to an agreement. So President Zelensky will be there, and there will be multiple bilateral meetings in the sidelines, as well as the tabled formal multilateral diplomacy that goes on as part of the G7 more formally. And what that is an opportunity to actually make incremental progress on a whole variety of issues, a whole variety of commitments. And with regard to Ukraine, the two things that stand out there is the willingness of the Americans, or the ability to pressure the Americans to continue supplying arms beyond which have been agreed by the Biden administration. And secondly, to get the Americans to support there being some sort of international support for a post-conflict presence in Ukraine. So on a whole variety of specifics, the American team and the president in particular will be pressed on trying to get incremental progress on those issues.
Now, as I understand it, David, originally the whole purpose of the G7 was to coordinate on global economic policy. Is that still the situation? And also, is that even a possibility when you look at some of the major economic countries that aren't even going to be in attendance?
Yeah, well, I mean, what's interesting, there are 8 other economies present: Mexico, Australia, Brazil, South Africa, South Korea are also there as well as that. Obviously, it's the capitalist countries, so it doesn't involve China and it doesn't involve Russia. But what there is an attempt to actually use these occasions to try and make pressure. And I say that's done multilaterally and bilaterally, because obviously those countries aren't part of the multilateral G7 formal structure. But the fact that they're there in numbers and the fact that the EU's there playing an important role too means that actually there will be an opportunity to talk about trade and tariffs, because that obviously is a major source of concern to the world economy. There'll also be discussions about Gaza. The international agenda is fairly crowded. And of course, the Canadians have also added things like talking about progress on AI and wildfires as a way of trying to actually make sure that there is something at the end of the thing that they can say they have agreed on.
David, great to speak to you. Thank you. David Dunn, Professor of International Politics at the University of Birmingham.